Welcome to That's Good Sports. I am your football host, Brandon. My worst meal during quarantine is still better than the best meals being dished in the NBA bubble, Perna. I mean, the robot fans at the Japanese baseball games are eating better than NBA players right now. We want a cure for coronavirus, but we can't even get LeBron James a fucking steak. I think we are all doomed. Now, NFL teams like the Ravens are warning fans that even if they are allowed into stadiums this year, they are reducing occupancy to 14,000 humans and just 20,000 robots. The Chiefs are doing something similar, which seems like a smart move to keep fans safe and still allowing some to watch games at stadiums. Unless, of course, you're Shane MC07711106 on Twitter, who won't be an NFL fan anymore. This was the straw that broke this Twitter bot's back. Today, I try to impress ESPN producer Mike Goldfarb by criticizing his least favorite fantasy football Instagram guy. We'll take a look at the ongoing battle of the NFL versus the players in preseason games. And is there any substance to the Antonio Brown to the Texans rumors? Don't know. You gotta watch. That's good sports. Please, if you want football news updates pretty much every damn day, subscribe to this YouTube channel. I do have big dick Patreon shoutouts for Tyler, Lang, Duke, Egbert, Lennon. This fucking website won't let me put special characters in my name. Kanye 2020, Russell Wilson MVP Alatorre. Check out my website, elitevolumefitness.com. Also, leave a like on the official Facebook page, hashtag Broncos Country Sticks Together. Kalapaway Market, Cock and Ball Torture, and Blue Ridge Mountain Plumbing, upping to $112 per month, has donated so much money that they now have their own parody donors here with Blue Ridge Mountain Plumbing, the best damn plugging in Central Virginia. Dams done right. Patreon.com/that'sgoodsports. That's how you support this channel, if you're crazy enough to do so. Mike Goldfarb, who is a producer over at ESPN and once interviewed me for a producing/writing job for Katie Nolan's show. That's right, I was a finalist to work for Katie Nolan, and then I humbly and regretfully declined the job when they did not offer it to me. But Goldfarb tweeted about the Fantasy Football Counselor. And no, he is not a trained professional to help restore your marriage after you unwisely spent more time playing fantasy football than paying attention to your wife's needs. He's some guy that talks about fantasy football on Instagram. Anyway, Goldfarb indicated that someone needed to point out how batshit crazy this dude is. And I said, I'm the man for the job. After looking at the Fantasy Football Counselor's Instagram account, I have no idea how he amassed 171,000 followers by delivering bad fantasy football advice in the most annoying way possible. As someone who has 196,000 YouTube subscribers and does the same thing, I have no clue how that guy did that.
Confidence.
In an attempt, though, to impress Michael Goldfarb, I decided I shall dissect the mind of the Fantasy Football Counselor like Dr. Melfi. Now, Goldfarb was irked when FFC, who I am titling for short, said that Austin Ekeler sucked in a video on Instagram.
Sucky running backs like Drake and Ekeler are coming off the board ahead of studs like Josh Jacobs, Leonard Fournette, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Montgomery.
Maybe he's just mad Ekeler is man enough to wear a mask. Or maybe FFC just isn't a fan of Disturbed.
Picture this. Say it's me coming out. Boom, 10,000 fists by Disturbed. I just bam, right in the middle. Fireworks going up at the same time. Everybody just
10,000 fists? Austin?
Boom, 10,000 fists by Disturbed. I just bam, right in the middle.
Ironic that a Chargers player picked that song, considering they've never seen 10,000 fists pumping at a home game. And God bless you, already hitting those jokes on Twitter, as it was brilliantly pointed out that Austin Ekeler is not down with the sickness, as evidenced by his mask wearing. Now, Fantasy Football Counselor's assessment of Austin Ekeler is wrong, even if you play in a boring fantasy league that doesn't do PPR. And FFC didn't back down from his terrible take even after Ekeler called him out. Ekeler was a fantasy football stud last year. 11 total touchdowns, 993 receiving yards, plus 557 rushing yards. That was 7th best in standard leagues of all running backs and 4th in PPR. Ekeler has a high probability to be a stud again this year, as he will be the number 1 back now that Melvin Gordon is gone. That means his carries should increase, and with the possibility of a young quarterback in Justin Herbert starting, his receptions should remain high as the young gun checks down frequently. Anyway, FFC lost all of his credibility when he cited David Johnson as an example of someone who will outperform Ekeler in fantasy football. David Johnson is literally the definition of an underperforming fantasy back. Ekeler had more rushing and receiving yards and touchdowns than David Johnson. Maybe the counselor is just morphing Duke and David Johnson into one person in Houston and projecting their combined stats for 2020.
Coming off the board ahead of studs like Josh Jacobs, Leonard Fournette, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, Montgomery.
Gurley, Fournette, and Johnson all scored less points than Ekeler in standard leagues last year. Fantasy Football Counselor. What I don't understand is why Mike Goldfarb is watching videos by a guy who is about 10 times more annoying than me. Take his low-effort Patrick Mahomes video, for example.
Pat Mahomes gets a mega contract, $400 million over 10 years. Big question is he worth it? I'm going to say 100% yes.
He said nothing relevant or entertaining there. Compare that to my Patrick Mahomes work. This contract, in addition to keeping Mahomes in Kansas City for the next 12 years, is unique in that the entire deal has rolling guarantees.
Rolling with Toby. Oh, hi. Oh, don't cry.
Now, I apologize for demanding multiple minutes of people's attention with my videos. Should I start doing this in all of my thumbnails and get my lats swole to garner your attention, Mr. Goldfarb? I know ESPN is not my landing spot, but if you want to EP my show on an appropriate platform, start pitching us to HBO or Barstool or Hustler. I don't care. I just need a producer.
Honestly, who cares? Nobody really cares.
Now, the NFL is gung-ho, not to be confused with young-ho, on forcing a couple preseason games. They are willing to do anything except daily COVID testing, which is what the Players Union is pushing for. I'm just pissed that Apple hasn't made COVID testing with an update on my iPhone possible. I should be able to spit on my home screen and know whether or not I'm in a police have COVID. Why can't I order home test kits from Amazon yet? I can order suppositories, but not a COVID test? Jeff Bezos? More like Jeff Asbestos. Also available on Amazon. Daily testing does give me some hope that the NFL can make this work logistically if they buy into that approach. Buy being the key word, as the NFL does not want to absorb any unnecessary costs, even if, it kills some of its employees. Here's what's funny, though, about the NFL. The league is trying to skirt the collective bargaining agreement for their benefit. They asked the Players Union to start training camp early. Not a huge issue, but pretty ballsy of the NFL, as they have never, ever, ever let players circumvent the CBA. The NFL can force preseason games because of the CBA, but it can't make training camp longer because of the CBA. But that's not what's funny. That's not the hilarious part about this. What is funny is that the NFL asked players to escrow 35% of their salaries this season to mitigate $4 billion in possible revenue losses. Luckily, the Players Union said, "Kick rocks," which was not actually supported by the kickers in any way. And as a homeowner, I actually know what the words escrow and mitigate mean now. Suck it, Radon. Putting money in escrow means saving it for later disbursement. So, it's not the worst thing the NFL could have asked for, but pretty shitty that we are seeing another league try and force their losses upon the players. I think the owners should eat that cost because they can fucking afford to. I believe the NFL will show between 16 to 20 billion in revenue for 2019 when the Packers numbers come out. Let's just say it's 18 billion. If the NFL eats $4 billion in losses in 2020, that still leaves them with about 14 billion in revenue, which would be roughly a 7 billion split between 32 teams, which would send NFL owners back in time all the way to the year 2015 in terms of profits. Each team will take losses without fans at games, but their operating costs will also drop. What I would like to see is a real number projecting how much each NFL team will lose. I don't know, the trade-off to me seems fair if the NFL is going to ask players to go out there and risk their health and safety, that they'll eat the losses for this one weird year. But fair has never really been what the NFL is about. Some dude named Ben Scott Stevens is reporting that Antonio Brown is in talks with the Houston Texans. Stevens said in a tweet last week that this is going to seem like a joke, but I promise it's not. Now, I never went to journalism school, but I don't think that's how they teach you to establish credibility. Phrases like, this is going to seem like a joke, you're never going to believe this shit, and okay, hear me out, are generally bad ways to report the news. If you want to establish credibility, you start with, hey, look at AB in this Texans uniform. See that? He's almost certainly ready to be a Texan based on this photo. If there's any truth to this, it would certainly fill some of the void left by DeAndre Hopkins' absence, although I don't know how prudent it is to replace a level-headed superstar with Mr. Medium Chest. The caveat will always be that we don't know AB's mental state, and until we do, he's a liability. But if there comes a day when he is back on planet Earth mentally and emotionally, and he's not mired in legal trouble, he's going to be a steal for whoever signs him. Now, last fall, I would have said no way. There's no way in hell AB ever plays in the NFL again. But 2020 has been so bizarre that I think an NFL team could sneak him onto the roster and not get any pushback. So far, he's been linked to Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Seattle, Tampa Bay again, and now Houston. Basically, any team that sniffs around leaves a trail, and that is picked up in the wind by some media outlet. And you know damn well that if I say the words Antonio Brown, wind, and sniff, that there's absolutely no chance in hell that I won't play this clip.
Damn, my bad, dog. I've done some bodybuilders, and this is pretty freaking low.
Confidence.
Thanks for watching another episode of That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, at Brandon Perna, if you care to follow me in either of those great social media platforms.